Uh, Once again, good afternoon and welcome to the second session. For this session, I have chosen the topic writing and publishing research article. And this is one of my area of interest. Uh, as you all know, in the education system, whether you wish or not, for your promotion, RC is must, publishing paper is also must. And they expect you to publish in UGC care list 1 or 2. Now they are considering the peer-reviewed journals. They are recommending from our Mysore University. We have recommended to the education to consider the peer-reviewed ISSN number journal also. I don't know whether they accept or not. What I mean to say is, research is equally important for working in higher education institute. Without research, it is not possible to get your promotions, particularly if you want to become the associate professor or professor, you have to have a good research publication. But teaching is okay for us, but somehow I don't know why we are not getting into research. I don't know. Always a kind of indifference. I don't know why that attitude. But publishing is also a kind of joy. You can enjoy doing research, publishing, reading your own article. You will enjoy. If you understand today's class or carefully listen to this class, you can publish a very good research article in very good journal. And definitely it is possible. Only thing you have to insist yourself, yes, I can do good research, I can write, and I can publish. In today's class, I will try to help you in understanding what a good research article and how to write a good research article and how to publish and where to publish. So these aspects I will cover in another 1 hour. So this is the outline of an article. A good research article will consist of a title. I'm not getting into how the title has to be written. I will come to that later. But a good research article will have all these: title, abstract, keywords, introduction, review of literature, methodology, results and interpretation or results and discussion, conclusion, references, tables and graphs. Sometimes within the methodology, some equations may come. So a good research article will have all this. Let us go one by one. In title, what are the things will come? So in titles, we can present the title explicitly or implicitly. The title should have the major issue or the subject matter, what you are working on it. And you have to be very careful what to include or what not to include. If you have more issues, it is not possible to bring all the issues within the title. The main issue has to come, the main subject matter has to come. And then another issue in the title is, shall I have a single title or shall I have 2 titles? Meaning one main title, another one is the subtitle. And use of special characters, comma, full stop, colon, semicolon, slash, question mark. You should not use all these characteristics. Just I'm given an example. Look at here: techno efficient, green and clean energy for sustainable development. in selected countries of Asia, an empirical estimation. It is an explicit kind of title. In this title, there are many things. One is issue is there, subject is there. Both are different. Subject is energy. Issue is using energy, how to achieve sustainable development. That is issue. Where in Asian countries, how do the research, what the research paper is doing? It is trying to estimate. It is trying to estimate. So just by reading the title, you can understand what are the contents, what are the issues, what is the methodology, what is the scope, and everything. You can understand just by reading the title itself. Sometimes there are titles like The Wall, The White Tiger. So in languages, particularly in languages, they write like that. They write the title implicitly, a very short title. Whereas in social sciences, humanities, even in sciences subjects, they write very in detailed titles which are known as explicit. If you want, you can have two titles like main and subtitles. Otherwise, you can keep single title. But title should be very attractive, catchy. Just by reading the title, someone should publish your article. Then, the standard journals always expect to write the abstract. So abstract is nothing but a gist of the paper. The main, what you have done in the full paper, in just 15 to 20 lines, you have to write what you have done in the paper. There are two ways of writing the abstracts. For the conference, first they call for the abstract, then they call for the full papers. But in that case, you tentatively write what you are going to do in your paper. Whereas in the research publication, only after the completion of your research article, it is possible to write the abstract. Because in the abstract, you write the major thrust of the study area. You discuss the data and methodology, and very briefly, you can talk about the techniques used or the models used in your research article, and major outcomes or findings of the study, and what are the challenges you have identified in that subject matter, and what suggestions you have given to solve those challenges or the problems, and one line of concluding remarks. Meaning, only after completion of your paper, it could be possible for you to write the abstract. Abstract, it is a simple miniature of your paper. And then keywords. Most of the journals expects you have to write the keywords. Why keywords? When somebody search for some article, for example, you are writing related to savings habits in India. Then I wish to find, is there any good articles in the Google Scholar or in Repack somewhere? Then I write the word saving. So if you have given the keywords as saving, definitely your paper will be displayed in the list of journals. Then the citation will be increased. Your paper will be cited by the many other researchers. So therefore, most of the journals expect you have to give the keywords. How to give the keywords? You give your issue as the keyword or the subject matter, like in the previous one, sustainable development, energy, techno-efficient, estimations, index. You give this kind. And you can also give the concepts. If you have introduced the new concept or even the old concept, consumption, give consumption, saving, you give saving, but just by putting that word, your paper has to be selected in the search, right? This is the purpose. And then introduction. What are the things included in the introduction? It is not possible to write the 3-4 pages of introduction to your research article, because a good research article will be around 10 pages. Less than or more than will be around 10 pages. Introduction may be half a page or a 1-page introduction you can give. Then what are the things you have to bring into this introduction? The most important thing, you have to bring the importance of the subject matter. For example, we are talking about the investment, you are talking about saving, you are talking about consumption, we are talking about social justice, we are talking about equality, we are talking about the governance. Everything was there yesterday also, day before yesterday also. What is that relevance today? What is the relevance of those things today? That you have to write. Why is the consumption is important today? Why the equality is important today? That you have to write. And you also state what is the status of the subject matter. For example, if I talk about the consumption, what is the consumption level in India? What are the different types of consumption in India can be discussed. So what was the consumption in 1940-45? What is the consumption expenditure today? What was the saving rate 20 years back? What is the saving today? And what are the different issues that you have to discuss? So within the consumption, there are people having the power to consume, there are people not having the power to consume, there are the freebies enhancing the consumption attitude. So like that, you have to bring in the issues related to the topic what you have chosen. And within the introduction, you have to write your objectives and hypotheses. I have seen many articles, particularly from humanities, they write exclusive hypothesis of the article, objectives of the article. No, don't write exclusive objectives and exclusive hypothesis. You have to implicitly write what you are intent to do in that research article and what you are going to prove in that articles. So it should be very implicitly you have to state the objectives and hypotheses. And at the end, you have to write about the rationale and need for the present study. Why you are doing this study at this point of time, that has to be written. And if there are any applications and implications for the society or to the government, you have to mention that also. How could the paper will help the society? How could the paper will help the people or the government or the particular sections? How could it helps? That has to be written in the introduction. Once you have done, you can go for the review of literature. How the review of literature should be. What are the things you have to do in the review of literature? So as you all know, review of literature is the gist of previous works. What are all the previous works have done? I know it is impossible to review all the works, but the most relevant, related works need to be reviewed in order to know what the issues have been analyzed. So since you are not the expert in the area, or if you are not very well versed in the area, if somebody have discussed the most relevant issues, if I read Thomas Piketty's book or the article, I will get the new issues. What are the new issues discussed? If Sukhdev Thorat writes an article, definitely there will be new issues. Therefore, when you review the previous research work, you will understand the different issues and the issues related to the present context. So therefore, when you review the research works, you will understand the issues. What are the issues analyzed? what data used, whether the primary data used, secondary data used, nominal data used, ratio scale data used, what methodology they have adopted, descriptive methodology, analytical methodology, inferential methodology, or econometric methodology, or something new, a case study kind of the methodology. So what methodology they have used and what techniques they have used. Like, sorry friends, today majority of the journals expects you have to use the statistical techniques, whether it t-test, f-test. If your subject is related to social sciences, even sciences, commerce, management, economics, even in the MSW, the journals expects you have to use sufficient appropriate statistical techniques. So if you use statistical techniques, the possibility of your paper being published is very, very high. For example, in the title itself, you have written an analysis of interrelationship between the physical deficit and the growth of India, a co-integration analysis. You have written, okay. Just by reading the co-integration analysis, your paper will be published, because co-integration is a highest level of technique, econometric technique. In statistics, if you have written factor analysis, if you have written structural equation analysis, definitely your paper will be published. Frontier analysis, your paper will be published. So therefore, the review of literature will help you what techniques that you have to use for your paper. And simultaneously, by reading the previous research work, all the previous works will not talk about the same thing. For example, related to savings, whether saving is good for the country or not. Some people will argue, yes, saving is good for the country. But some other people will say, no, saving is not good for the country. Saving is good for the individual, but not for the country. So there are different opinions. By reviewing this, you will understand on what side you are going. For example, if you talk about the energy and development, energy is important for the development, but the cost of energy is very less. Then how can I say energy is most important in development? Then this kind of the different arguments you will find in the review of literatures. Therefore, you identify what are the agreements and what are the disagreements. So disagreements and agreements you identified separately. So once you have done all these things, you will be able to identify what has done in the previous work and what has not done. You will be able to identify the research gap, what you can do, and you can state out the gaps, what the present study is going to do. So these things that will help. I mean to say, without review of literature, you cannot finalize your title. You cannot write your the introduction. You cannot write the methodology. You cannot select the techniques. You cannot do interpretation. So for better writing your research article, your knowledge about the previous works will play an immense role. Then coming down to methodology. After review of literature, we discuss the methodology. So as I already told, there are different methods you can follow: descriptive, analytical, inductive, deductive, econometric. So any of the methodology you can follow. Each methodology having its own strengths and weaknesses, but always go with analytical or econometric or higher version of the methodology. And at the same time, for all journals, for writing the journal article, you have to use data. You should know what data you are using. By doing the review of literature, you will understand what the previous research works have used the data. And you have to identify the different types of the data, because all data is not the same. There are nominal, ordinal, interval, ratio, scale. Why I am telling, each type of data uses different techniques. You cannot use mean for the nominal. You cannot use frequency for the ratio scale data. So therefore, if the data is different, your technique will be different. Like that, if there are any economics participants, definitely if you are using econometrics, time series econometrics is different, cross section is different, pooled data is different. For the pooled data, we use pooled data analysis. For the cross section, we use general methodology. For the time series, we start from the stationarity and go up to ARDL model. So like that, each type of the data will go with different lines. So, and then origin of the data, primary, secondary, and better always go with the secondary data. If you are not doing your PhD, then don't go for the primary data. If you could able to get the primary data, okay. Otherwise, happily use the secondary data. Plenty of secondary data is available. And in the methodology, you have to write the period and place. From what period you are taking the data, 91 to 2020. Why 91 to 2020? You have to write the justification. And why it is for Karnataka, why it is for Tamil Nadu, why it is for Mysore only or Mysore district. So like that, you have to justify why you have chosen that period and why you have chosen that place. And then what techniques that you are using, whether they are parametric techniques, non-parametric techniques. If they are using parametric, what are specific techniques that you have to mention. And if you have developed any model, then you mention what that model you are. It is just to show you. If you are following descriptive methodology, you have to go with the descriptive analysis using mean, deviation, correlation, index. If you are following analytical method, then you have to go with the inferential statistics and econometrics. And you are in the analytical analysis, you are going with the a kind of argumentative kind of the article that you are writing, meaning you are going to prove something. You are going to prove something. When you are going to prove something, you have to provide sufficient proof, and these proofs should be tested proofs. Then you go with testing of hypothesis. Then you should know a better research article will come out only when you know all these kind of the methods. And simply I am showing, if your data, if you are going with descriptive or inferential, if you are using only one variable, if your data is nominal, ordinal, interval, what are the possible techniques that you can choose? Again, if you are using two variables and different levels of the analysis, descriptive, inferential, if you are using nominal, ordinal, and ratio scale data, what are the techniques that are available that I have written? And if you are going with the multivariate analysis, there are two different ways of multivariate analysis. One is the analysis of dependence, another one is the analysis of interdependence. Under the analysis of dependence, you have multiple regression, MANOVA, ANCOVA, canonical correlation, and higher order ARDL, structural equation modeling, everything that you can use. If you are going with interdependence analysis, you can go with cluster analysis, factor analysis, and even the structural equation modeling. And this is classification of dependence and independence analysis. And as I already told, you have to provide for a good article, you have to make new arguments. For the new arguments, you have to provide the proof. To provide the proof, you have to test and provide the proof. For testing, you should know the distributions. And there are 4 distributions: normal distribution, there are no test for that. And then Z-T distribution, F distribution, chi-square distribution. My intention of showing this is not to explain all these things. If you know all these things, you can write a better paper. That's the intention. And if you are using primary data, the size of the sample should be fixed based on the formula. If you use this formula, you can fix your sample size. And then let us come to the results and interpretation. How could you interpret the data? Once you got the data, once you have taken the results, so nowadays getting the results is not a problem because we have plenty of softwares. Each discipline is having a different softwares. So we have SPSS, we have Gretel, we have E-views, we have Strata, we have RR, we have different mini tabs. and others. So all these softwares will help you, and this is not much difficult. Go to any YouTube channels, write how to conduct a t-test in SPSS. In just 10 to 12 minutes, you will understand how to use SPSS and how to get the results. Getting the results is not a difficult thing. The most of the solving the problems, getting the results are available, plenty available in YouTube. You can use the YouTube and you can get the results. And even the previous versions of the softwares are freely downloadable. You can download. Once you got the results, how to interpret the results? What are the different ways of presenting the results? The one such is you can write the statements. Just writing the statements. Writing the statements, it's a kind of descriptive presentation. Mysore is a clean city, cool city. The income of India is 1,70,000 rupees. In India, we are having both development and inequalities. You are just stating, but you are not providing any proof for that. If you want to provide, justify your things, you are not writing the statements. You have to write in the illustration form with reasoning, with logical background and systematic sequencing of arguments. So once you have told arguments are a kind of the differences. The arguments are the kind of relations. The arguments is a kind of influence of one on the other things. So these are the three different possibilities. You can write statements. Otherwise, illustrate reasoning, logical, systematic sequencing of arguments by providing proof. By providing proof. While by providing proof, making the arguments, three possibilities as I told already. One is you are explaining differences. You are talking about differences. You are talking about relations. You are talking about associations. You are talking about impact of one thing and another thing. So therefore, as much as possible, try to write in a very simple, straightforward manner. Whether you are explaining the status, use only descriptive statistics, make in the form of statements. If you are talking about the differences, the difference in income, the difference in consumption, the difference in education, the difference in health status, whatever the things you write, whenever you write talking about the differences, you have to provide the reasons for that. And whether the difference is really the difference, you have to test and prove. So the good journals will look into these issues. You simply write, in Karnataka, the sex ratio is deteriorating. How could you say that line? There is a gap in education levels of male and female. How could you say? You have to test and prove, yes, there is a definite difference in the level of education between male and female, the level of wage between male and female, the level of education at urban places, rural people, the level of education among the different sections of the society. So you have to test and prove the differences. So for that differences, you can conduct a t-test, f-test, ANOVA, you can prove. You can conduct the pair t-test or the one sample t-test, two sample t-test or the ANOVA, and even after that conduct the Duncan grouping test. So by testing these things, you can prove or disprove the difference. Like that, another important thing what you are explaining is the relations. What is the relation between the income and education? What is the relationship between the wealth and education? What is the relationship between the wealth and the health? What is the relationship between the wealth, health, and the income? You are talking about the relations. And there are some short-term relations, there are some long-term relations. Wife and husband live 20 years, long-term relations. Right? Two friends live together 1 or 2 years, short-term relations. For the short term, there are different techniques. For the long term, there are different techniques. For the long term, you can go with the co-integration, ARDL models and others. But for the short run, you can conduct a very straightforward, simple correlation test, Spearman test, Carl Pearson test, rank test, partial correlation test, or the multiple correlation test. You can conduct, prove, and explain how the relationship exists. Whether it is positive, negative, if positive, whether it is perfect or relative, if it is negative, whether it is perfect or relative. Write about these things. Okay. And then impact. What is the impact of income on consumption? What is the impact of wealth on the education? What is the impact of foreign direct investment on the development of a country? What is the impact of deficit financing on the inflation of the country? Okay, the impact analysis. What is the impact of parents' education on the children's education? Right? So like that impact. So you can write the impact analysis by using the regression analysis and other things. You can, so regression, it's a plenty of techniques are available, simple, multiple regression, ANOVA, ANCOVA, dummy variable, logit model, probit model, Tobit model, truncated models, ARDL models, co-integration models, processing models, sequence model, VAR models. There are plenty of models available, which is suitable for your analysis. Choose that, use that, and your paper will be published. So like that, you can write about the what are the impact out of your results. And then association and implications. If there are any associations, like what is the association of gender with the reason, with education? What is the association of the crony capital with the Indian development? What is the association of poverty with inequality? So you can talk about the associations. And whenever you talk about the difference, relations, impact, and associations, you have to provide sufficient proof, and these proofs should be tested proofs. And at the end, as I told already, from your review of literature, there are two different arguments. There will be the two different arguments. You talk about anything, there will be two different arguments. There is no single argument. Right? So therefore, at the end, whether you are going with the previous agreements or you are going far from that agreements and you are going with the disagreements, or you disagree with the previous arguments. If you are agree, why you are agree? If you are disagree, why you are disagree, and what is the validity of your disagreement? That has to be written in the interpretation part. So this is how the results will be analyzed, interpreted. And then when you come to the conclusions, what can be written in the conclusion? State what you have done in the article. So one line, what is the major focus of the present article? It is the what the objective you have examined, estimated, or analyzed, or studied, that has to be written in the first line of the conclusion. After the first line, you talk about the major findings that you have identified in your work. Maybe findings, maybe relations, maybe differences, maybe the impacts. What are the things you have identified in your article that has to be written? 2 or 3 findings has to be written. And what are the challenges or the problems identified, right, as a threat for the development or something like related to your major subject matter. And 1 or 2 suggestions has to be written in the conclusion. And if possible, if you are rational, then write about what is the limitation of your article. Limitation in the sense, not the terms of quality. So you have taken Mysore as a research area, but the same thing can be applicable to Chamarajanagar, Hasna, Mandya. So that's how you have to write. The study focused on Mysore, and it can be applicable to other areas also. So So other research work, researchers can go with Chamarajanagar, Hasna. So the focus of my study is Karnataka, relationship, explaining the relationship between the income, consumption and investment. The same kind of the research can be conducted in Tamil Nadu, Andhra Pradesh, by using the same methodology or the same way in which this paper has examined or the written. So this is how, by writing this, will help the future researchers. And one line concluding remarks. This is in the conclusion. And while giving the references, you have to follow the styles. You have to follow. First, if you are social science, you have to follow APA, American Psychological Association. If you are language, you have to follow MLA, Modern Language Association. If you are science, Chicago, Harvard. Nowadays, we are going with Mendeley. Mendeley is becoming outdated. We are going with online inbuilt softwares. And if you are not comfortable with anything, follow the style. Manually, you can give the references. But I always suggest it is always better to go with inbuilt software in your computer. In all your Word, there is reference, a submenu called reference. Go to that reference, you will find how to give the references. The style will be displayed. If you are writing the reference for an article, the method is different. You are giving the reference for a book, different. Report, it is different. For everything, there is a different method to write the references. Most of the times, when your article go for the review, the first thing they see, the reviewers see whether they have given reviews appropriately. This will be seen. I have reviewed more than 100 articles for more than 10 journals. First thing I look into that, whether they have given references properly. Giving references is very, very, very important. So therefore, you go to Word, go to reference, go to insert reference, see what are all the different styles available, and everything is inbuilt. You can follow them. This is how APA style is given. In the APA style, always the name will come first. After the initials will come. And like that, Mr., Doctor, Professor, nothing will come. You should not write. If you are written Dr. Prema Kumara, your paper will be rejected. If you are written Dr. Bharati, but your paper will be rejected. Definitely your paper, the good journals will never publish if you are written Dr. Bharati. So in the reference, the name should be straightforward and the initial has to come only after. And I have given here the different versions, articles in edited books, journals, reports. I've given different references. You have to follow this style. And tables. When you write the tables, it all depends on the journals. Whether the journals expects the tables has to come in the main article or only after the article. So some journals put the tables only after the journals. Some journals allow you to present your table wherever it is appropriate. But while writing the table, you have to write the table number, like table number 1, and then write title after colon, write the title. There should not be 2 lines, there should be single line. Table number 1, title, energy consumption in India, saving habit in India. Okay, table 1, title. If there are subtitles, you write the subtitles. Otherwise, you have to give at least this subtitle. So in what terms you are presenting the table, whether in terms of rupees, quantities, quintals, meters, liters, dollars, whatever. So simply you are write number 2, 3, 4. What is that? Whether it is rupees or kgs or quintals or crores or lakhs? Why should I understood? Well, how should I understood? So therefore, you have to mention the meaning of that numbers. And you can present in the simple table or the cross section table, meaning both like this. The table has to match from the both the crosses, and sometimes you can present the results of what the results you have taken from your software. Directly you can present that table, but that is not the appropriate way of presenting the tables. As much as possible, there are standard styles. For example, if I get the result from a regression analysis, multiple regression analysis, then how to present that results in journal article? Just you go to the previous research articles, thus in the same journal, you go and see the other articles, you will understand how they have presented their results, regression results. You follow the same. Instead of presenting in the form of table, you present in the form of equation. So there are standard ways of presenting the tables and the data and the results. You follow that. And don't forget to auto fit. Your content should be fit according to their size. Alignment, 99% of the time should be in the center. Positioning and the data source for the table, from where you have taken the data. If we're talking about the international trade, you have to write about the commerce and industry. Okay, the Ministry of Commerce and Industry. If we're talking about the inflation rate, if you're taken the data from the RBI portal, you have to write Reserve Bank of India, Government of India. If you have taken the data from the Ministry of MHRD, you have to write the Ministry of MHRD, Government of India. That is the source. And you have taken the data from any books and others, don't write the name of that books, because he is not the original owner of that data. You have to mention the source of the data, who is the original owner of that data. Okay. If something is present in some other reports, don't mention that report. So who has given that data to that report? You have to mention the who has given, the original owner of that data. You have to mention that. Most of the times your article may be disqualified because of that reason. You have not mentioned the proper original source of information. Okay. The same thing for the graph. A graph number like graph number 1, and then write as much as possible. Graph title should be very short. Graph type based on the data, whether you are using line graph. If your data is time series, please use line graph. If your data is in time series, please use line graph. If your data is cross section, please use bar. If your data is sharing, what is the share of women and men in agriculture? Then use pie chart. What is the share of different communities in India? You use pie chart. If you are using multi-layer informations like human development index, health index, education index, income index, or the standard of living index for the 32 districts of Karnataka. 32 districts and 4 variables. You can present at a time by using radar graph or star graph. So this is star graph is very useful for presenting the multiple informations. Then now let me come back how to write. Till now I have explained what are all the things which will be in a very good research article. Now how to start? Yes sir, I have understood what should be a research article, but how to start, sir? So the first step in writing the research article, you have to tentatively finalize the title, some broken idea or a broken subject. And how do we think? If you belong to MSW, you think in MSW. If you are political science, you think in political science. First thing is your discipline. If you are economics, you search the issue within the economics. If you are belongs to the education, you think in terms of education related issues, right? If you are MSWO, then you think of the social issues, right? So like that, the first discipline. So in economics, we have plenty of areas: agriculture, industry, education, health, human development, energy, many more things, employment, consumption, investment. So just to from there to come down to specific field. Okay. So within that field, for example, if talking about the energy, what are the issues related to that? Whether you are talking about the clean energy, sustainable energy, renewable energy, are the energy prices, are the quality of the energy, are the adoptions in the energy, are the technologies in the energy, investment in the energy, consumption of the energy, practice of energy sources. What are the things that we are talking about? Whether we're talking about the energy related to the India, Karnataka, or the urban, rural, what are the reference references? So like that, from discipline specific area, you identify the issues, then that will help you to write the title tentatively. So you can take 1 or 2 weeks, but finalize your title. And you can discuss with your friends, you can discuss with your colleagues, and you can discuss with your seniors, if you are doing research with your guide or the seniors in your subject, you discuss and finalize a title. That's very, very important. So that will restrict you to focus on the specific area of research. So without finalizing the title, if you move, so you will go like this, you will go like this, you will not stick to a particular issue. So therefore, finalize the title first. And then related to that title, search for the previous work. There are plenty of sources, .in, .com, .org, there are different libraries which plentifully provide the research articles. Our Sodhganga itself provides plenty of articles. The Sites Direct will give you, REPEC will give you, ideas, SSRN. There are many online sources today. There is no dearth of articles related to your topic. Select the most appropriate, suitable, closely related to your topic 10 to 20 journals. Download them, download all those journals, take the print. It does not cost you much, hardly 100 to 200 rupees. So download all those things, because once you have download, you can prepare a table of contents. What are the issues discussed in each of the paper? You write a small description about each of the paper. What are the major issue discussed? What is the data used? What is the methodology used? What is the final argument? What is the suggestions given? So what is the next article? Main title, issue identified, data used, methodology, techniques, argument, disargument. So once you make the list of that, you can classify them into 1 or 2 or 3 groups. Yes, these journals arguing this, these journals arguing this, these journals arguing this. So these are the subject matters discussed. These are the issues discussed. So while reading, making this exercise, we'll be able to identify what has done, what has not done. I already told. Your review of literature will help you to identify the research gap. What has done, what has not done. So once you're capable of making this kind of the note about the each of the article, then certainly that will help you to identify the identical works, what data has been used, what methodology has been used, what are the techniques used, what are the arguments, what are the major findings. So by doing this, you can prepare a draft review of literatures. So while writing the review of literature for the research article, how do you write? You will write the most of the previous research works, how these discussed the issues like so and so, so and so, so. And these research works have used these kind of the data. These previous research works have followed this methodology and techniques. So these previous reviews have identified and argued for so and so and so. However, these previous research works have not discussed these issues and not used this methodology. Therefore, the present research paper will discuss these issues by using this kind of the data and methodology. This is how you have to write the review of literature, not writing individual reviews for each of the articles. Put together all the journals together and you have to write. It should be kind of a flow of thought. Okay. Then review of literature helps to writing your introduction. It will help writing the importance of the subject matter that you have taken. It helps to explain the relations, interdependency, causes, consequences. So it will be the review of literature is the basis for your paper. If you have done good review of literature, you will be able to write a very good research article. So once you have finished the review of literature, write the introduction, because now you know the importance of the subject, the issues discussed, and the relevance of the issues, and the contradictions of the issues, and the arguments. So now you write the introduction. And then by reading the review of literatures, you will understand what data they have used, techniques they have used, model used, and methodology they have followed. So for your research article, you write your draft methodology, okay, by understanding the previous one. And at the same time, make sure availability of data and where the data is available. So without the data, you cannot write the articles. So before going to complete writing of the articles, ensure that whether the data is available, if available, whether it is adequate, what is the authenticity of data, is that data is comparable, is it in the compatibility format, can it be usable, can I download the data? You have to understood all these things. So once you have completed your methodology, it is a straightforward. By using the softwares, obtain the results and construct the tables, construct the graphs, and then interpret the results. I have explained the way in which you have to interpret the results. You can present the statements, you can explain the differences, relations, impacts, associations. If there are anything else, you can tell me later in the discussion time while discussing the issues. And then write the draft analysis, conclude the work, prepare abstract, identify the keywords, and give the references. Everything I have explained already. So this is how you have to complete your research article. Once you have complete the research article, once you have complete the draft analysis, first you go with checking these things. Is there any ambiguity in the title? Whether the keywords are identified and given or not. Classification of papers, JLE classification, you call it as JLE classifications. So whether it is comes under the Q or A or E or M. So if you identify given this classification, your paper, the chances of your paper being identified in that group, in that classification is very, very high. And then whether the objectives of the papers are coins and clearly written, that you have to check whether they have implicitly written or not. Clarity in the abstract, what you have to write in the abstract, whether there any clarity or there any ambiguity or the misarguments or the arguments are matching or not, that you have to check. Whether your arguments are in logical sequence or not, that you have to ensure. And the objectives of the papers are whether they fulfilled in the, so you have written the comparative analysis of consumption income behavior in South Indian states. When you have completed your article, you have taken only one state and you have submitted. But your title says South Indian states. but you are talking about only one state. That is not right. So your title says something and you are talking something. Women empowerment in garment industry. You simply write women empowerment in one empowerment. You will never get into garment industry. That is not right. Okay. So when you're talking about the like that socio-economic empowerment of women, you talk only economic and you are not talking about the social aspects of the empowerment. So that is incomplete. So therefore, verify whether your objectives of the papers are fulfilled or not. And you have given the conclusion. Is there any doubts in that conclusion? There should be a clarity in the conclusion. It should be like you are explaining a story, right? It should be like a story. Both your abstract and the conclusion should be like a story. Even if any layman not understand what your article is explaining, for example, you could have been used big models and equations, techniques, results, so and so. But I will not understand. So most of the journal articles, even today, it's very difficult to understand. But when you read the abstract and the conclusion, you can understand what the article is talking about. So therefore, there should be a clear clarity in the conclusion. And whether you have presented the tables and graphs in appropriate style and position, verify that. So sources given, references given, and it is very important for the plagiarism also that you have to check. Once you have completed all these things, rewrite your article. It will increase the quality of your article to the very highest level, right? Once you have completed your article, now the question, how and where to publish? And now we have obligations of being working in the degree colleges and the university systems. You have to publish in UGC care list. Previously, you can publish in open access, print, any print, conference volumes, ISBN, ISSN. Before this, UGC was classified the groups into A, B, C, D. Now it is clearly care list, group 1, group 2 journals. So are there any sufficient journals in group 1, group 2 or not? This is the next question. Look at here. In group 1, UGC care list group 1, there are more than 200 science journals. There are more than 250 social science. There are more than 300 arts and humanities. Multidisciplinary, there are 36. Indian languages, 200. In the group 1 journal itself, there are more than 1,000 journals where you can publish your article. Sometimes social sciences can publish in humanities, multidisciplinary. That is not a big issue. Under the group 2 journals, look at under the Web of Science and the Scopus, how many journals are there? There are plenty of ample number of journals you can publish. Only thing, you have to identify in which journal I have to publish. Once you decide this is the journal I have to publish, then you go for what the style of that journal. What are the type of articles they have published already? And what are the standard of that journal? And what should be I should include or inculcate to publish in this journal? Okay. Social sciences have told you, there are 314 in the group list 1. There are 314 journals starting from 1 to 10, go up to 314. Just I am showing there is no bogus. There are 314 journals in care list 1. That's I want to say. World Economics Journal, Economic and Financial Publishing, World Journal of Chemical Education, Science and Education Publishing, Journal of Law and Feminism, Yale Law School. And in category 2 also, there are plenty of journals, right? Then the question, sir, how can I reach this UGC care list? It is very, very simple. You go to UGC website. This is the website, UGC care list, right? You could see, yeah, UGC care list. That's the step 1. Then register yourself, completing the process, and then you identify your category, and then you can log into UGC care list directly. Go to the UGC website, go to UGC care list, log in, and you can search care list 1, care list 2, and even you can, the same thing I have followed. I have went to the UGC, right, and then registered myself, and then go to the care list, go for the search where you want, whether it's science, social sciences, or the humanities, or languages. Click on that.
ಸರ್ ಒಂದು ಪ್ರಶ್ನೆ ಸರ್ ಇನ್ ಬಿಟ್ವೀನ್ ಸರ್ ಪ್ಲೀಸ್ ಸರ್. ಏನಂದ್ರೆ ಈಗ ಸಪೋಸ್ ಒಂದು UGC ಕೇರ್ ಲಿಸ್ಟ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಜರ್ನಲ್ ಇರುತ್ತೆ ಸರ್, ಒಂದ್ ವರ್ಷ ಬಿಟ್ಟು ಡಿಸ್ಕಂಟಿನ್ಯೂ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ, ಅವಾಗ ಆ ವರ್ಷ ಪ್ರೊಫೆಸರ್ ಪಬ್ಲಿಷ್ ಮಾಡಿರ್ತಾರೆ, ಅವಾಗ ಏನು
ಬರ್ತೀನಿ ಅದಕ್ಕೆ. ಸೊ ನೀವು ನೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ ವೆನ್ ಯು ಗೋ ಟು ದಿ ನೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ ವಿಲ್ ಗೋ ಟು ದಿ ಜರ್ನಲ್. ಓಕೆ, ದೆನ್ you go to the, you can go to the particular article. You can go in all UGC care list, you can go to the particular journal also. Okay, sir, I have told one good question. You have posed one good question. Yes, sir. You are telling, sir, the validity of the journals frequently change. Sometimes they are listed, sometimes they are not listed. Okay, so at the time of submission of your article, if that journal is listed, your paper will have the validity forever. You don't worry about the journal, whether the journal exists tomorrow or not. If the journal is listed today, if you are submitted your paper today, that's enough, sir. Sometimes they take times. You have submitted today, but they have taken 6 months. In the 6 months, they will not be listed. Even then, at the time of submission, if the journal is listed, your paper will be treated as care list listed article.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Here I have written practically explain. I am not going to practically explaining the things. So while writing,
ಇಲ್ಲ ಸರ್, ಆಕ್ಚುಲಿ ಇದು ಬಹಳ ಸರಿ CAS ಒಳಗಡೆ ಸಮಸ್ಯೆ, ಬಹಳ ಪ್ರೊಫೆಸರ್ಸ್ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಬಹಳ ಜನ ಇದಾರೆ ಸರ್, ಆತರ ಯಾಕಂದ್ರೆ ಇಟ್ಸ್ ಆಕ್ಚುಲಿ ಎಕನಾಮಿಕ್ಸ್ ನವರಿಗೆ ಎಸ್ಪೆಷಲಿ ನಾವು ಬಹಳ ಈ ಎಕನಾಮೆಟ್ರಿಕ್ಸ್ ಸ್ಟಾಟ್ಸ್ ಬಹಳ ಬಳಸೋದ್ರಿಂದ ನಮ್ಗೆ ಬಹಳ ಇದೆ, ನಮ್ಗೆ ಖುಷಿ ಅನ್ಸುತ್ತೆ ಸರ್. ವೆನ್ ಇಟ್ ಕಮ್ ಟು ದಿ other streams, they're not using much familiar about the statistics and the econometrics. Idenappa is lengthy and unsure.
Yes.
Usually lengthy ansutte sir.
Any other questions or clarifications or adding something?
ಸರ್ ನಮಸ್ತೆ.
ಇದೊಂದು ರೆಫರೆನ್ಸ್ ಸ್ಟೈಲ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಬಂದ್ರೆ ನಾವು ಎಕನಾಮಿಕ್ಸ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಯೂಶಲಿ ಹಾರ್ಡ್ ವರ್ಡ್ ಸ್ಟೈಲ್ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ